Now, the manufacturing sector has been in decline for the last 2 decades. The lower productivity impacts competitiveness in the global markets, of course, being some of the contributing factors here. But this means factories will continue to decrease output, digging the country further into the economic doldrums. It's a vicious cycle. So let's find out how to restart the machines from Productivity SA's Mthunzi Ndwaba. Thank you so much, Professor, for joining me this afternoon. You know, I think the first question we should ask is, what are some of the contributing factors here when it comes to the low productivity growth in South Africa, and how can we improve this, if we can?
So, good afternoon, and thank you as well for having us. I do want to preface the conversation with thanking everybody that attended the annual general meeting on Friday. It's not every day that you have annual general meetings being well attended, but we had an oversubscribed meeting, which is probably a good sign, because people never knew what Productivity South Africa was doing or what we were about. So I think, having said that, there's a lot that is wrong in our country, Baron, as you know. There's a myriad of reasons. I would start with the most obvious one, a lack of leadership. We've had a lack of leadership for a very long time, but unfortunately we pussyfoot around these things. We don't call things what they are. We have a lot of people in authority who don't know what they are doing, and typically, because they are not leaders, they don't own up to what they don't know. You know, leaders will tell you that I don't know, and this is what I know. The second one is that whenever you give warning to the powers that be and all our colleagues throughout the country, particularly our government colleagues, about the state of the declining productivity and competitiveness in the country, I don't think anybody has taken it very seriously until recently, and I'll come back to the recently and why I think now people are taking it seriously, hence my feeling that the AGM was a turning point to have an oversubscription of people attending it. But for the last 12 years, 13 years, Productivity SA has given warning to the government, the president, the ministers, everybody that needs to know that, you know, in terms of the Global Competitiveness Index, which is compiled by the Institute of Management Development in Lausanne in Switzerland, we've been dropping year on year very badly. We used to be number 44 out of 62 countries. It was increased to 63 countries, and in 11, 12 years, we went to about number 62, I think we were last year, out of 65 countries it was last year. This year we are number 60 out of 63, and we're not even sure that 60 is a true number because Russia and Ukraine are at war, so they were not counted. So it could well be that we would not be 60 out of 63, but another number. So that's another one. It's not just paying attention to what you're told. I mean, it's there for everybody to see why it is that we have the challenges that we have.
So are you saying that, you know, you have been warning governments about the low productivity growth, but it has been falling on deaf ears?
We've been warning government and our other partners as well, trade unions and business, but the main mover here is government. We've been telling them, we've been writing to them. 3.5 years ago, you may or may not be aware that the Department of Labor changed its name to the Department of Employment and Labor, for example. And as soon as the name changed, the team at Productivity SA has written numerous letters, numerous documents to the presidency, to the guys in the economic cluster to say, hey, you can't just change a name. If you change the name to employment, then it must also change its behavior. You must change our behavior, all of us collectively. We must change the resource structures. We must give different kind of elements of budgets. We must be able to give different programs and interventions in the market. But all of that has fallen in deaf ears until recently, maybe a year ago, when we started having parliamentary portfolio committee that is there now for the Department of Employment and Labor, starting to listen, you know, under the chairmanship of Ms. Lindela Dunjwa. And the most amazing thing she did, which some people might think should be frowned upon, but me, I respect her for saying it as a chair of the committee. She said, I don't understand what productivity does. Can you tell me what it is you guys do? Now, everybody before her had not had the bravery and the guts to tell us they don't understand what it is we do. So you almost, as the chair of Productivity SA, as my daughter would call it, as a psychologist, you almost have like a cognitive dissonance situation where you are asked to deal with productivity issues, but the people you're talking to don't even know what it is you're meant to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's good. Some good news is, though, you do see a change in leadership.
There's a change.
Yeah, and a change
there's
in
a change.
mindset as well.
There's a change, and also I'll mention, if you have time, also there's a reconfiguration that's happening as we speak of the Department of Employment and Labour, which will also help.
Before we get to that, I just need to touch base on the manufacturing sector, because I think that's a big one for South Africa.
Yeah.
We've been seeing a decline. And that's a sector that is 13%. It contributes to the GDP of this country. Is it a sector that is definitely in need of rescue?
Yes. And it is a sector that is probably, the word I would use rather than rescue is, it needs all hands on deck, and it needs resuscitation. And it is possible to save it. It's quite possible.
Why has there been a decline?
Sorry?
Why has there been such a big decline?
Well, again, a number of reasons. I'm not going to repeat the ones I've given you, because they also impact on this question as well. But I think the excuses that have been used in the market have been that we have a very high pricing compared to the likes of China and other parts of the world. I don't believe that. I don't think it's true, quite frankly. I mean, if you look at our minimum wage situations, we don't have such a high structure. You will also, of course, know that if we have what we have now, and why I chose to come to the studio, by the way, is that when this interview should have happened yesterday, I was actually happy in some way that you guys postponed it, because load shedding happened. So my connectivity virtually would have been a problem. So when you have such intermittent, unpredictable energy lack of supply, there's more lack than supply. You're bound to have that compounding the issues that we have. But I think in addition as well, it's possibly not having the kind of faith we should have in our own abilities as a country. You know, one of the biggest problems about South Africans, and I've known this for a very long time, I mean, I spend a lot of time in global structures leading the employers of the world, to know that everybody outside South Africa believes in us. Everybody, except for ourselves. We're the only people that don't think you and I are worth to be able to lead and do things. There's a lot of people in this country that can help us to do things right. A lot of young people that are knocking on the doors and starting to throw stones on the windows. A lot of people that are not in the, private kind of boys club that we've had of people who, because they fought for our liberation, they seem to think that they are more entitled to freedom and anything they like without having to consult. So all of those play on this, because when you warn people and give them the early signs, they don't pay attention. So manufacturing also has the same challenges, in that if we are not going to look on the work floor and make sure that we heighten our productivity as well, and make sure that we enhance the competitiveness of the land, we're going to have problems.
You touched briefly on it, load shedding. We see now stage 6 being implemented in this country, and it says indefinitely. We don't know when this might stop. The energy crisis in South Africa must have a big impact on this as well.
Of course. I think, thankfully for me, I don't pay attention to the stages. I don't know what that means, stage 5, stage 6, because it all, for me, it's just an irritation. So all I've noted now is that every 2 to 3 hours, we have no power and no energy. And the answer to you is a resounding yes. I mean, we don't have too much time to go into unpacking that. But I think it also messes up the unpredictability, and even if people want to help us as a country, they want to partner with us, it's a deterrent. Why would you go to a country that's always off than on? It makes no sense. But I also want to go back, though, because I don't want us all being depressed. When all's been said and done, as somebody who's been very fortunate to travel probably over half the world, I can tell you we still have the best country anyway. So if we had the right leadership, and we had the right people at the steering wheel, and the right people making the decisions whether to apply brakes or to put the foot on the pedal, we would be able to turn that around, and make sure that even this energy crisis, I mean, I saw now we're planning to buy, 1,000 megawatts of electricity from private hands. That's a good thing, suppose. We're starting to be aligned to the reality of our failures and the reality of opportunities and possibilities by partnering and collaborating. But these are things we should have done a long time ago.
Thank you so much. Unfortunately, that is all we have time for, but hopefully we can have you back at some point again to discuss further. And it's not all doom and gloom, as you said, but there's definitely a lot of work that needs to be done.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Prof.
you.
That was Productivity SA's chairperson, Mtunzi Ndwaba, right here on ENCA Channel 403.